Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wingcat Sports, and it's a division breakdown, end of the year division breakdown for the NFC North. Pretty good this year, outside the fact that every single team lost their first playoff game. That made it to the playoffs. 3 out of 4 teams made it to the playoffs, but I mean, all teams have a very bright future. Um, in the division. We'll go team by team from first to last um, in the division. And then obviously we're not going to spend as much time on the Lions because the overview for their whole season was yesterday. But just to sum it up a little bit for the Lions, really good season. Disappointing to get bounced in their first playoff game against the Commanders at home. They had everything in the bag. But overall, everybody on the team had a good year. No one to blame for really anything besides maybe some bad performances in the playoffs.
Right. I mean, it was a great year. 15-3. They were entertaining for, 18 weeks out of the year. Everything was, I don't think there was a single game where at least it wasn't, tense or entertaining to watch. They didn't get blown out by anybody.
Besides Washington.
Besides Washington, maybe. And that's the only reason they got blown out in that game is because, they had a lot of turnovers. I don't understand. I've been listening to all the people talk, and you're not guaranteed nothing. I mean, yeah, our window is still open for a couple years. We've had some defections with the coaches, but that was expected. And yeah, it's not going to be as easy, but it's about a competitive football team. Give us something to look forward to. Not everybody wins it. Very few people win it unless you have Patrick Mahomes and then you're in it every year. But, imagine how Buffalo feels. Every year they come up to it, they got a great team.
And then they lose to
And then they got to lose to Kansas City. I mean, it's frustrating. It's going to be frustrating. You're lucky to get there.
Yeah.
And you're lucky to win one. So be happy you got a team and a coach where, you're going to get to play meaningful games all the way through December, probably.
Yeah.
Next year is going to be even harder to watch if you're one of these people who gets, upset easy about this stuff. It's not going to be easy. You play in a really competitive division, maybe the most competitive
It's
division.
probably will stay. People make fun of the fact that it was the best division in the regular season. All teams got bounced in the playoffs, but it's a really good division, and you shouldn't really worry about it that much. You're probably, as Detroit, you're not winning the division next year.
You might not. I don't know. Maybe you will.
With the schedule you got, let's see how the offseason goes. You lost both your coordinators. You're potentially losing other coaches on your team. So again, we'll see how the offseason goes. You got 60 plus million in cap. And we'll see who you sign as coaches, who comes in as free agents, and we'll go from there.
Football's not like it used to be. Nobody gets through these seasons without a lot of injuries. It's whoever can survive this stuff. It's whoever has some depth, and you get these role players coming up, like our guy Muhammad, who played really well this year on the line, considering you never even heard of the guy before mid-season.
Yeah.
But he played really, really well. Should make the team next year. But that's the kind of stuff. You don't know what's going to happen to these teams we're playing next year. Philadelphia might be garbage. All these teams that we might play might not be that good. Kansas City is not going to be that good next year. I can guarantee you that almost. They are not going to be the same team. They are going to drop a little bit. They're on the downside. As long as they have Mahomes, though, they got a shot, I guess.
Yeah, well, for the full breakdown of the Lions season, you can go to our video that was posted yesterday.
All right. We're moving on. I know. I'm just saying that no matter who we play, no matter which team, you can't predict this by looking at a schedule.
But moving on to Minnesota. Minnesota did not have that bad of a year. They were 14-3, one game away from the first round bye. And who knows what had happened to them had they ended up playing Washington.
Right.
At home. The same thing might have happened. We don't know. But 14-3 ended up losing first round to LA. Which again, not the greatest, but LA almost beat Philly. So, but stat-wise this year, they're pretty good. Sam Darnold threw for 4,300 yards. Aaron Jones rushed for 1,000. Justin Jefferson had 1,500 receiving yards. Their leading person with interceptions, Murphy Jr., had 6. But overall, they didn't play that bad. Sam Darnold, overall, he threw, once I can find the TD, 35 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, was sacked 48 times on the year. Which isn't, no, it's not a bad year by Sam Darnold. We'll see where what contract he gets in the future. And where he is at. Will Minnesota keep him? Will they go with JJ? Will they start Daniel Jones? Because Daniel Jones is on their team. It's an uncertain future at the moment for the Vikings. Right now, your QBs are Daniel Jones and JJ McCarthy. But I mean, Sam Darnold got you there. Do you trust him to get you there again, or do you go with someone else due to the poor performances of the last 2 weeks of the season? It is up in the air, but you have a good wide receiver core with Jefferson, Addison, TJ Hawkinson. And then you got Aaron Jones and Cam Akers, is a pretty good running back duo.
Right. No,
So you're not in a bad spot if you're
No.
in Minnesota. It's just question marks involving your quarterback situation, more or less. And I would not be surprised if Minnesota is running for the division again, but also, again, questions at QB. They could be last place in the division next year, depending on what all happens. But the same thing could be said for, the Lions. Who knows what's going to happen, though most of their team is returning. But it is a question mark on where the future of the Vikings go. Kevin O'Connell was signed to like a 7-year extension or something. He was signed for a while. So Kevin O'Connell will be here a while. So you might have the same coaches in this division for a long time.
Yeah, Minnesota's got a bright future other than, like you were saying. I mean, everyone knows that. As far as what we're waiting to see is their QB situation. But as soon as that's rectified, we can have a better picture of what we think that they'll do. I'm putting almost every team in our division at 10 or 11 wins.
They have a very good chance.
That they're going to be
their
so
defense
close
is
next
very
year.
good. Now, if they lose Brian Flores into a coaching hire, I don't know how
Right.
good their defense is going to be. But they had two guys who had over 10 sacks, both linebackers, Bernard and Van Ginkel. Had over 10 sacks, 12 and 11 and a half. No defense. So mostly their defensive ends aren't that great, but their linebackers are pretty good. And that's going to help you as long as you can keep on having a good defense, figure out your quarterback situation. Minnesota, again, will be in the running for the division again. They have a bright future. They have a good team. If JJ comes out next year and balls, then you got a very good chance at fighting for the division.
Yep. I mean, I don't. Like I said, I think we're gonna see probably have the most fun next year if you could just not get upset watching this division go at it against each other. I don't think anybody, because we were lucky this year. We got 6-0. No one's going undefeated in the division next year.
Shouldn't go
I don't
undefeated in
think
the
so.
division. I didn't think you go undefeated in the division this
Right.
year.
I mean,
That's
I
what
thought I
got
was pretty shocked.
the
And I
basic-
thought Minnesota's downfall basically happened when they lost to us. The last
Minnesota
game
was
of the
4-2 in the division. Both their
right.
losses were to us.
They seemed to lose whatever oomph they had when they lost to us, and they didn't. Like I said, they didn't look like the same team against the Rams that they looked all season.
No.
And I mean, I feel like I said, but I think, like I said, if they can rectify that quarterback situation, I don't know if they're going to sign Darnold or not. You don't think they'll go with JJ next year?
I don't think they should. I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
No, it's the
I don't
second
think they
year.
should.
Okay.
Well, he's coming off an ACL tear, right?
Get out there,
You give him a
play!
year to actually learn, maybe
Yeah, that's
practice a little bit, and not
might
just
be right.
throw him out there. You want him to be semi-mobile.
That's true.
Don't just throw him out there and hope his
Well-
ACL stays intact again. Give him
I don't think
time.
Darnold will sign
Let him
for-
learn.
Well,
That's why they
could
might go-
franchise him. or
They could
something?
franchise tag Darnold. I don't know if they want to do that. I would go with Daniel Jones, to be honest.
Maybe, yeah.
And if Daniel Jones sucks 4 games in, guess what? You still have time to save yourself, hopefully, for a playoff spot by putting in JJ. And if JJ's not
They'll go
ready,
pretty
then
quick,
you're
yeah.
screwed. I say just take the risk of not getting him hurt, at least initially in the season. And if there's nothing to lose, play him. That's basically what my thought process
Okay.
is with JJ. But moving on to Green Bay. Green Bay, again, not a bad year. Again, over 10 wins. In total, they had 11. They're 11-6. 5 of their losses came to in division. they lost to the Bears this year. The other 4 were to Minnesota and Detroit. Well, and they also lost to out of their 6 losses, they lost to Philadelphia too. But 5 of those losses were in the division. Minnesota and Detroit beat them twice. The Bears beat them once. They sucked inside the division this year. That's probably why their downfall happened. They only lost to 3 teams all year. Or 4 teams all year, but 3 teams. Minnesota only lost to 2. That being the Rams and Detroit.
Right,
But
they lost to us a couple times. They lost to
Green Bay lost
did
to
Minnesota sweep them?
Minnesota swept them, Detroit swept them, Chicago split, and they lost to the Eagles.
they're
4
awful,
teams
man.
all year you lost to with your 6 losses. But you ended up only throwing Jordan Love only threw for 3,300 yards, which is not the most amazing year. He also threw for 25 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Not the greatest year. Okay, it's average, but I don't know if it's worth the money you just spent for him.
Right.
If he continues, if that's how he plays for the next how many years you have him signed, I would be worried as a Green Bay fan.
I think Jordan Love, I was we all were expecting him to be much better this year, and he wasn't. I hope he bounced. Well, I don't hope. I hope he sucks, but I think he has a good chance to bounce back next year.
He does.
But
they have a good team.
I think they got a really good backup. I think Malik Willis is
will be good.
Guy
I
wouldn't be afraid to turn to.
You have a good wide receiver core in Green Bay with Reed, Kraft, Watson, Dobbs. You have a good running back in Jacobs, and Dillon might be back next year if they want to keep him. If not, they'll go with Wilson. But we'll see what ends up going. Green Bay has options. I would say they're the most uncertain team in the division next year. Not that they won't be good. I think they can still win 10 plus games next year. I think out of all 4 teams have the most uncertain future. And it's unknown territory for Green Bay because when's the last time everybody was good in the division at the same time and them probably being near the bottom of those good teams?
Right.
Because you're third place in the division, even though you had 11 wins, and Chicago might be getting a whole lot better with a different head coach, but we'll see what ends up happening. But Green Bay, they have a chance to potentially go for the division next year. I don't think they will win the division next year. I think it might be between Chicago, Detroit, and Minnesota more likely, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're still talking Packers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they suck. No, I think the Packers are the ones I'm kind of most thinking might have the most difficulty. Yeah, I think the Bears are gonna with their with our coordinator that they just hired, with Ben Johnson at the helm. Ben's has the potential. Bears have the potential
to unlock that offense. They have a
to be better, a lot better. I'm sure he's going to try the first thing to do with that is an offensive line trying to really get.
Yeah, you got to build up that offensive line
because you can't do crap without that, and they don't have one. So, I mean, I said I think they could make the most, but then again, they might be in last place again. I really don't. I look at our division. We all have questions. We all have big questions, but we're all maybe not elite next year, but we're all good. We're all, right around that 11, 12 game mark. Any one of us can hit that. So that's good. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch it unfold, to see who is going to take charge, who is going to recover from the losses of this year. The problem, like I said, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean the Bears, they finished 5-12, but they have a really good offense that just needs to be unlocked. Caleb Williams threw for more yards, though again played 2 more games than Jordan Love, but he threw for more yards than Jordan Love, 3,500 yards. Now rushing wise, they didn't have 1,000-yard rusher. Swift was about 40 yards short of being 1,000 yards. But that could change next year. DJ Moore was about 35 yards short of 1,000 yards receiving on the year. He being their top receiver, but we'll see what ends up happening because they do have a good wide receiver core. Moore, Allen, Anduze, Kmet is real good. Swift is a good catching running back. And then between Swift and now they had like 3 different people two different people run a lot, but they had three different people run a decent amount. Swift took most of your carries. We'll see how their backup running backs do, because like Khalil Herbert, he didn't stay for long on the Bears. I thought maybe he would have more action on the Bears, but we'll see what ends up happening overall, because their offense could be unlocked. They have a very much a sleeping giant when it comes to their offense. It's just that offensive line sucks. And if Ben Johnson, being their new head coach, can get a good offensive line going, Caleb Williams will be good. But it all comes down to that offensive line. Defensively, they had nobody over 5 sacks. Sweat played 16 games, had 5.5, but it was very rounded amongst the people who got sacks too. They have a good amount of people who had more than 3 or even more than 2 sacks. So their defense wasn't bad. The defense is never that bad. It's that offense. And there's talks about Dennis Allen being their defensive coordinator next year, which will probably boost up their defense even a little bit more. But the Bears are a sleeping giant, and they could be very much better next year.
I agree. Like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing what Ben Johnson can do with Caleb Williams and the weapons they have. Now, I don't know if they're going to have the same weapons because some of the receivers are getting a little old.
They still have a good,
but or if they're still signed, are they still?
I think their secondary in their defense is probably their main concern on top of O-line, because their secondary only got 11 interceptions. Scurby Joseph this year got 9 by himself. So secondary for the Bears is probably what needs to get worked on top of your offensive line. But you're a really good team. You have the chance to be a very, very good team, vie for the division, even a playoff spot next year. All 4 teams in the North could make the playoffs next year. If you could,
or one, because they're battling so hard that the only one that makes it is the one who wins the division.
If everybody splits their games in the division and wins outside the division, everybody would be 14-3. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But I'm just saying, realistically, everybody could still be over 10 wins as long as you're not beating up on each other too much and you're beating up on everybody else in the league. It could be a very strong division next year, all depending on how Chicago goes and how Green Bay goes. The only certain thing is the Lions aren't changing much. Their coaching is going to be questionable because everybody's leaving coaching-wise. Minnesota, it's your quarterback. Green Bay, it's just overall, how are you going to play with the division being better when you lost the majority of your division games? And then when it comes to Chicago, is what can Ben Johnson unlock? Can he make this team better? Is it going to be the usual Chicago Bears that's been for the past 10 plus years?
All right. Well, like I said everyone's going to, in our division, I think will be the team that goes 4-2 will be the one that wins the division, because I think the rest are going to be struggling to even get to 500 in our division. It's like I said, the honeymoon's over. I think the Lions are going to still be a good team.
I don't think they'll win the division for 3 straight years, though.
Green Bay did. They run it for many.
Yeah, but the division sucked for about 15 plus years.
We'll see. I'm trying to think. I don't think Minnesota's better than us. I don't think Green Bay's better than us, and I don't think the Bears are better than us.
So the bright side about Detroit is you're not losing a lot of big guys. The biggest guy you're missing is Carlton Davis, and you're likely we're going to move on from him anyways. The problem with Detroit is coaching, and we'll see where that goes.
Well, I think Scotty Montgomery is going to be their pick for offense coordinator, but we'll see. We'll see. I think they're going to go, like I said, from within, and he's been groomed for the last 2 or 3 years to take over. I think, and with Mark Brunell going to the Jets with Aaron Glenn, I think that's even more of a case. Well, who do you think their defensive coordinator might be?
Who?
The Lions.
Oh, Lions. I mean, you talk about Robert Saleh.
He works for Green Bay, though.
Yeah, but he can get a hire. He's not their defensive coordinator.
You think?
They're thinking either head coach or he's going to go to San Francisco, but why not come here? You could try to steal Dennis Allen, if you wanted to. I think they're going to hire from within, though. I think that's how it's going to be for the Lions.
I don't know who's on defense that they would hire from within, but
their linebacker coach, I forget what his name is, but the linebacker coach is rumored to be set up, and we might lose him in a defensive coordinator search. But we'll see where we go. We're going to probably go from within as a Lions team. But hey, if you go for Robert Saleh, that'd be funny. But we'll see. Between everybody, Chicago, Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit, it's going to be a very tough division next year. But we'll do like looking at schedules next year in a different video and all that. But I'm going to end it here. If you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think is about the division this year. Disappointing for all the teams in the division how it ended, but besides Chicago beating, Green Bay and being the only winless team in 2025 in the division. But we'll see you next year. And hope to see everybody soon.